Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostle of Great Millstone. And in our respect to the brothers out there pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai to the four corners of the world. Now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, I just want to do a quick lesson on endurance and the rewards that we shall receive, in this ministry. And Lord willing, this be edifying. This is Romans chapter 15, starting from verse 4. It says, "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, and that we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope." And pretty much that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to go through the scriptures. And what I want to reference in particular is the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the scriptures talks about how, Babylon shall be overthrown as Sodom was. The book of Jude talks about the destruction of Sodom's and how the smoke ascended forever, right? That the everlasting, let me just get it right now. Isaiah chapter 13, verse 19, it says, "And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, America, the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency, shall be as when God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And the Most High did that by way of fire." Now, of course, the ancient Babylon was not taken out that way, which is why we know that this is going to happen at this time, right? So, that's the first one. The same thing is being said again and again. And let's see. Oops. Right, this is Jude chapter 1, verse 7. It says, "Even as Sodom and Gomorrah, the cities about them, in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth as an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire." And it's another reason why we know that hell, a place where you burn forever, is not a real place. Because the same thing, the vengeance of eternal fire, is spoken, right? It's associated with Sodom and Gomorrah, but the ancient, city is not currently on fire. We know where that land is, or at least we know the approximate location, and it's not an eternal fire. But as a matter of fact, it's just being the prophets being poetic in saying that the destruction is going to be remembered from generation to generation. So these are the references to Sodom and Gomorrah, is why I want to go into the book of Genesis, chapter 19, I believe. Yes. So the book of Genesis, chapter 19, starting from verse 1, it says, "And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, arose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground." And, the city gates is sort of like, it's another way of saying downtown, the town square, or, the marketplace. It's always right by the city gates. Whenever in an ancient city, once you pass the walls, the first place you enter is the marketplace. And it's also where the judgment seat is. The daily judgments of local matters is solved right there at the city gates. So it makes sense that Lot will be hanging out around that area. It says, and he said, "Behold, now my lords, turn in, I pray you, right into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways." And they said, Salakia. And they said, "Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. And behold, but before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house about round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Here it is, the judgment is descending, it's about to descend on the city. And these men out here, have clueless as they are still going about their wickedness. And this is pretty much the situation that we see all around us. All you have to do is go through, whatever news channel, right? You can go on YouTube, or you can have the app, and there's all sorts of strange things going on. There's a typhoon, heading for Taiwan right now. There's a wildfire in Canada right now, okay? A landslide that killed, right, as far as they know, 229 people. Just like Yahushua said, there shall be what? There shall be earthquakes in diverse places, wars and rumors of war. There are definitely wars going on. There are rumors of wars, new wars, and there are rumors of existing wars escalating. Judgment is descending upon this place, and what are people doing? They are just asleep. They're indulging themselves in the folliness and the wickedness of this place, and they refuse to change. Even though the Most High has set his watchmen, the men, right, his prophets out there, warning them. As the scripture says, give them warning from me. We're giving them warning from the Most High, and these people out here want to keep on doing their wickedness. And the scripture talks about there's going to be a time where they're going to add on to their wickedness, and they're actually going to what? They're actually going to seek to take the lives of the men of the Lord. So just as how judgment was coming upon these people, and they continue on to do their wicked deeds, that's the same situation that we're in right now. So it says, and they called unto Lot, the people, the people of Sodom, they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them unto us, that we may know them. And of course, the word know is a polite way of saying what? Sex. These men were sick, They were like, that's where the phrase comes from, a sodomite, The heavy sexual morality was heavy in that place, and this is something that Ham is known for. If you do a little bit of history on the Sumerians, you'll find out that they have a lot of sexual gods. They had a lot of sexual deeds, in the name of their gods. Ishtar. If they wanted, favorable conditions for agriculture, they would do orgies. I mean, these men were like crazy. They were sick people, man. And it's the same thing that we're reading off right here. We're reading that in details in the scriptures. It says that we may know them. Verse 6, it says, and Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not do so wickedly. So he approached the men, he stepped out of his house, and he closed the door behind him, and he tried to reason with them. It says, behold, now I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. And at this point, he's saying, look, man, for you to go and do this, I'd much rather have my daughters, which are virgins, and bring them to you, and then what? You can have sex with them. It says, only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And Lot was just trying to be, he's very reasonable and upstanding guy. It says, and they said, the men said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now will we deal worse with thee than with them. And so we see the spirit that people are in right now. You can't even try to reason people out of their wickedness. You hear Jake being a bunch of niggas plotting to steal, to hurt, to do all kinds of wickedness. And sometimes you don't even gotta bring out you don't even want to bring out the scriptures. You just want to try to reason with them and tell them that, look, man, you can't be out here acting the way you acting right now. You got children, you got sons and daughters, you got a wife, you got a girl, you got your baby mama. You can't help them if you in jail. But you can't even reason with Jake on a carnal level. How much more on a spiritual level? It says, and they pressed sore upon the men, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, which is the angels, and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. And so when they're trying to rush in and they're pushing Lot to the door, the angels open the door, grab Lot, and they shut the door quickly before anybody can get in. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And this is the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place. Now, of course, we know that, the deliverance is coming in these last days. It's not transferable to others. Every man must work out his salvation with fear and trembling. You must work out your own salvation. No one can, stack up on the favor. No one can stack up the favors of the Lord and transfer some credit to you so that you can receive the same privilege that the righteous receive. That's why the scripture says that no man can give ransom for his soul. It's verse 13, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord Yahweh. And this is what the wicked people refuse to they refuse to listen. When you tell them that your wickedness, there is no such thing as an individual being. You are not your own being. You don't get to do whatever it is that you want. You do the things that please the Most High. The scriptures talks about the eyes of the Most High is 10 times brighter than the sun, and it beholds all iniquity. When he looks at his creation, he has to be glad in what it is that he's looking at. You don't own this place. You don't even own your own soul. The scripture says, all soul belongs to me, saith the Lord. And so when the Most High looks at his property, it's supposed to behave the way he intends it to behave. So it says, the cry have waxen great before the face of the Lord Yahweh, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And that's the ultimate judgment that we try to warn people of. There is an extent to the long suffering of the Most High, and as is written off in the book of 2nd Ezra, I believe the 9th chapter, the Most High said that I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness. So verse 14, it says, and Lot went out and spoke unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, get up, get you out of this place, for the Lord Yahweh will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his son-in-law, right? Because people think we are here playing, we joking. When you go out into the highways and the byways and you have on the garments and you're yelling Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, people think that you're a madman. They say all kinds of, they think we're comedians. We're out here joking. But this isn't grandstanding, man. This is some serious business. What's going on in the spirit is much more important than anything in your life. Forget your, and people won't realize how important it is until their life is on the line. When you can't, when you've done all you can, searched every place you can think of, done all you can do, and you can't even get a one meal. And that's when you're going to remember the Lord. That's when all the things in the world that you indulge yourself in is going to seem like nothing to you. And when the morning rose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his two daughters. And the Lord Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth, right? And because this ain't the time for you to be hesitate. This isn't the time for you to backstep. When you are informed of the destruction that's coming upon this place, the scripture talks about it in Habakkuk the 2nd chapter, that he may run that readeth. You ain't supposed to drag your feet. You're supposed to immediately touch the ground and keep going. And build your faith. So while he lingered, while he hesitated, it says what? The angels laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his daughters, the Lord Yahweh being merciful unto him. Right. But today, if you're lukewarm, if you're not trying to go all the way, the Most High will leave your ass behind. It says, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. In other words, outside of the city. They set him to the boundaries of the city. It says, and it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, escape for thy life. Right? Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And let me see. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my Lord. Behold, thy servant has found grace in thy sight. And thou hast what? And thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast shown unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. So he's over here asking for permission to find a better spot to hide, because if he runs up in the mountain, and it makes sense for Lot to be told to go to the mountains, because if you look, the scripture talks about he went down to the valley, to the Jordan Valley, and he pitched his tent towards Sodom. Right? If you look at this spot right here, and you see he's in a valley, he's in a lowland, and the scripture talks about Abraham went and dwelt in the valley of Hebron. So it makes sense for the angel to tell him to flee into the mountains, because he's at the lowest spot of all the regions. So he was like, well, if it's possible, let me go down further away. If I'm not supposed to dwell in any of this plain, let me at least go down into Zoar, and this is where they suspect Zoar to be. But it may not, but it could be, but it may not. So it says, and Lot said unto them, Salakia. It says, behold, now the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Let me escape thither. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said unto him, see, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow the city for the which thou hast spoken. Hasten thee, right? Escape thither, for I cannot do anything until thou become thither. Man, I hate this word. Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord Yahweh out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. Yo, I believe, let me see if I can find a precept. I'm not going to spend too much time if I can't find it, but let's see. right? um, it says, and his brightness, verse 3, Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 3, it says, God came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran, Salah. His glory covered the heavens, talking about the chariots, and the earth was full of his praise. It says his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand. Now, of course, the horns talking about the rays of light, and the hands talking about axletree. So like a circle, the opening of the chariot. So if you look up the word horns, the word for horn is of ray of light. And it's one of those words that have different meanings, and depending on the context, you should be able to pick from which, right? But in this context, it means ray of light. And the hand talks about, let's see, the axletree, right? Which is, if you look, this is like the center of a wheel, the hole in which you attach the axletree to, so it will be like the rays of light that are coming from the center of the chariot. I need a better illustration, but I hope brothers understand what I'm talking about. So it talks about a chariot, the lasers come from the chariot. It says, and there was the hiding of his power. So in other words, this is where his power was hidden. So he shoots the chariot. That's when people are going to realize the power of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. It says, before him went the pestilence. In other words, the fire. And the same thing is talked about in, I believe, the book of Numbers, when they came against Aaron, and they tried to say that Aaron was not qualified to be the high priest. And the scripture says that the Most High came down, and he sent pestilence upon them, and they were burned. So in other words, a chariot came down and burnt them. So it says, so this is talking about that the burning from the chariots. It says, and burning coals went forth at his feet. So beneath the chariot, it was as though it were like, burning coals. So the earth was scorched. It says he stood. It says he stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations. The same thing is talked about in 2nd Ezra, I believe, the 13th chapter, where it talks about a multitude had gathered to make war against him. And upon a sudden, there was nothing to be perceived but smoke and dust. So this is talking about the nations were drove asunder. He drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered, which means the leaders, the governmental bodies. It says, and the perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the lands of Midians did tremble. It says, was the Lord Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea? That thou didst ride upon thy horses and thy chariots of salvation. Now this is talking about Psalms. I didn't intend for this to be a breakdown. Psalms 18th chapter, one of my favorite chapter, says he rode upon a chariot and did fly, yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his pavilion place, right? Thick clouds round about him. So same thing, at his brightness that was before him, his thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. Verse 14, yea, he sent out his arrows and scattered them, and shot out lightnings and discomforted them. Then the channels of the waters were seen, just as we run, was thou anger against the rivers. Then the channels of waters were seen, and the foundations of the world were discovered at thy rebuke. So in other words, he unraveled, like it scorched the surface and caused earthquakes, and literally the ground was discovered. It was removed. The foundations was like disrupted. at the breath of thy nostrils. All right. So back to Habakkuk chapter 3. Was the Lord Yahweh displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea, that thou didst ride upon thine horses and thy chariots of salvation? Right. It's gonna be sort of like a death machine, but also a life machine, and that's gonna be like the the duality of the chariot. It's gonna save life, and it's also gonna kill. It's gonna kill a lot of people, but it's also gonna save lives. um, let's see. Thy bow was made quite naked. I also want to talked about the rivers. I also want to talk about the plants. So we're talking about the destruction of the Most High. Right, it says, although the fig tree shall not blossom, neither shall fruits be in the vines, and the labor of the olive shall fail, and the field shall yield no meat. The flock shall be cut off from the fold, and there shall be no herds, right, no in the stall. So when we jump back to Genesis, the 19th chapter, the scripture says that what? Then the Lord Yahweh, verse 24, then the Lord Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord Yahweh out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities and all the plains and all the inhabitants of the city and that which grew upon the ground. So even the trees, the grass, the reeds, the flowers, the roots, all of them, the Most High destroyed. It says, but his wife looked back, from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. So when the Most High, unleashes his wrath, don't be stupid, man. You're going to have a lot of people being stupid in that day, and the Most High is not here, to tolerate foolishness anymore. He did that before he brought the judgment. He did that when he sent his prophets out there. And so, that's pretty much all I wanted to bring out. It says, and Abraham got up early, right, in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord Yahweh. So he's up here on the high end, right, on the plains, Hebron, and he can see the smoke coming from the valley. That's crazy. I love this. I love this image right here. It's so spot on. But yeah, hey, the scripture talks about what? The many shall stand afar off when they shall see the smoke ascend from Babylon. So this is just a comparison I wanted to make. It says, and he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah and towards all the land of the plain, and behold, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And this is what I wanted to finish it off here. Freaking app. Malachi chapter 3. Verse 16, it says, then they that feared the Lord Yahweh spake often one to another, and the Lord Yahweh hearkened, and he heard it. And a book of remembrance was written before him for them that fear the Lord Yahweh, and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, saith the Lord Yahweh of hosts, and in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. And this is the word of the Lord. Hopefully we be part of this fold that gets delivered, all right? That are treated as the sons of the Lord, not as the enemies of the Most High. So with that, I'm ending right there by giving all praise and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Ruach. Shalom to all the Akims and Akwafs that are listening in truth and sincerity. How about Shemeshah Brakatham? May the blessing of election be upon the house, and may the Most High record our names in the book of life, in the book of remembrance, that we may be delivered. All right, Shalom.